My name is Josiah Willis, and I'm CEO of Proestate Planning here in Bellevue. In order to understand my story and why I decided to get into estate planning help and also helping people through probate, it's important to understand where I come from and why I do what I do. In order to understand how Proestate Planning is the best company to help you settle your family's estate and plan for your future, it's important to know who we are and how we got started. My story begins with my grandpa. He was a selfless man who had entrepreneurialism in his bones, and my grandma and grandpa started a garbage and recycling company in 1945 to provide for their 6 children. He worked tirelessly to earn a living for his family and wanted something to pass on to his heirs. He started with 1 garbage truck and 100 customers and serviced them himself. He had a work ethic that couldn't be matched. He grew this company into a large operation and then passed it along to my dad and uncle, who took over from him upon his retirement. What he didn't know was how big of an impact he would have on his kids, grandkids, and generations to follow. My grandpa was my dad's hero because he was not just a successful businessman, but he was also a man of integrity who cared about serving his community and his family in order to have an impact on people's lives. He started a family legacy that he passed on through high ideals, a great work ethic, and financial freedom to my family. He was my dad's hero, and my dad has been my hero watching him follow in my grandfather's footsteps. So watching my dad growing up, I knew from a young age that I wanted to be a successful entrepreneur just like him and my grandfather before me in order to be able to pass on my wealth, life lessons, and success to my kids like my grandfather did. However, I was afraid I wouldn't live up to my grandfather's and father's success because ultimately I wanted to make them proud of me. My grandfather passed away when I was only 10 years old in 2002, so I was unable to start a successful career while he was alive. But I knew I wanted to follow in his footsteps and make my dad proud. So choosing the same vocation as my father, I decided to obtain a finance degree from the University of Washington, a Foster School of Business, in order to be able to start a company as an entrepreneur upon graduation. So upon graduation, there was one problem though. I didn't have an idea for starting a company. So I decided to join a business consulting company as a financial analyst with hopes of eventually becoming a billable consultant in order to get exposed to many different business industries in order to come up with my startup idea. So I was excited to finally come up with my idea in order to achieve my dream of being an entrepreneur like my dad and grandpa. But reality hit me like a ton of bricks. It was clear after a year and a half, a little over a year and a half actually, that consulting wouldn't be the path to identifying an industry for starting a company because management didn't have any plans for me to become a billable consultant, rather just to stay in the same role that I was in. So there was no way I was going to get that knowledge I needed to identify my idea. So I was bored with my job because I didn't feel like I was making any progress towards my goal of being an entrepreneur and making my family proud. So I got my real estate license and went into real estate in order to serve clients and learn real estate investing in order to grow wealth and help others grow wealth in a much more entrepreneurial environment. So then suddenly my grandma on my dad's side and my grandpa on my mom's side passed away in the same year. That was in 2017. Needless to say, our family had to deal with the loss of not only 1 loved one, but 2, and that was not an easy task. It was a tough year losing 2 grandparents in the same year, but it was especially sad knowing I had no more grandparents on my dad's side left. It hurt knowing that they weren't going to be able to see me get married and have kids of my own and meet their great-grandkids. What was especially difficult, though, was watching my dad juggling his duties as a personal representative for his mom and dad's estate while also running the family business. He obviously had never been through probate before, since your parents' death and estate settlement only happens generally once. So as executor, he had immense responsibilities. He was responsible for selling the house he grew up in, selling a recreational property, splitting up the financial assets, getting his siblings to agree on funeral arrangements, asset distribution timelines, and much more while living his already busy schedule. Needless to say, he was swamped. Even with a lawyer to help him in the process, he still made a mistake that delayed the entire process almost double what was required if he wouldn't have made this mistake in the first place. He thought that having an attorney was all he needed. It turns out it wasn't. He didn't file probate in the state of Hawaii, where my grandma and grandpa owned a timeshare, and this doubled the length of the process, causing delays, undue hardship, and affected his peace of mind. That is when it dawned on me, though. I had a finance background, a real estate license, vendor connections with investment flippers, and thousands of investors that I could utilize in order to help families settle their estates fast and keep them from making the same mistakes like my dad did, and help them retain their own financial futures in order to build their family's legacies. My combination of experience in finance, real estate, and working at a consulting firm all combined together were the tools I could use in order to start my very own estate settlement and investment planning company in order to become an entrepreneur, but also help other families carry on their parents' wealth and success to the next generation. So the plan became to find out all I could about the probate process. I studied the process in my local county courts. I took classes on the process. I learned about the pitfalls and threats that executors and heirs face when settling their family's estates. I interviewed attorneys and estate planning CPAs. I went all over. But I then built the team and vendor list to have all that would be required to help families through this process. This included estate sale companies, like I mentioned, precious metal buyers, construction contractors, attorneys, probate appraisers, CPAs, wealth managers, investors, moving companies, you name it. The problem is I hit a snag. I ran into my first client whose father passed away and he was managing his mother's affairs. I prepared my team and my process to help them through the process, but they had a Seattle teardown. Basically, a teardown is a house that's in such poor shape, you just tear it down, demolish it, and build brand new construction. So this Seattle teardown was a house that only really a builder would want to buy. So my builder connections were actually pretty much the only thing in my tool belt I didn't have at the time. What's worse, they wanted to take the funds of the sale of the teardown to purchase a house for sale next door to the owner's son's house on Camano Island. On top of that, there were already interested purchasers on the property next to his house on Camano Island. Here was my first client who gave me the opportunity to make my dad and grandfather proud by serving someone's needs, but this was a situation I wasn't prepared for. So what happened? So I mustered up my college resourcefulness skill set and decided to reach out to a lender contact of mine that had builder connections. He connected me with a builder who was interested in purchasing the Seattle teardown house, and we went under contract. I then was able to help my clients utilize retirement savings to make an offer on the neighboring house, beating out a cash offer in the process in like a 3-day turnaround before we had to close on the Seattle teardown. I utilized my CPA connection to ensure that they didn't have to pay capital gains on the Seattle rental teardown since they had purchased years ago because of what's called a step up in basis. So mission accomplished, it did it. But throughout the process, I learned that helping families with their investments, assets, planning, and estate settlement was the right type of business to start in order to build a lasting legacy across not just my family line, but other family lines as well. I realized to truly leave an impact for my family legacy, I needed to focus on how I could help others achieve their own family legacy goals, so future generations across all America could continue to grow their family's wealth and protect their assets. This has become my mission here at Proestate Planning, and I believe I've found the business that my dad and grandfather are proud of. So this is my story, guys. This is why I started this company, and I look forward to hopefully helping you and your family settle the estate, and also help you in any way possible that I can in order for future generations to benefit from generational transfer of wealth. Protect your wealth, guys. Please give me a call if you have any questions. I would love to help you. Thank you so much.